We've all heard it over and over in business that we need to know who our ideal client is. Your ideal client is someone who vibes with your tribe. It's one of those topics that we say, yeah, I know I should kind of have this figured out, but I don't really. Or you're super afraid to get very specific on who you're looking to serve because the idea of leaving someone else out or leaving money on the table makes you sweat at night. I'm right there. It took me entirely way too long to actually sit down and grind out the nitty-gritty details of who my ideal client was. And if you're listening to this with a vague idea of who your client is, I'm here to help you out. So grab a cup of coffee, pour some extra cream in it, and let's break down those barriers that have held you back in the past and help you really define who your ideal client is so you can begin attracting them fast.
Welcome to the Wise Photographer Podcast with your host, Chelsy Wise. Each week, Chelsy is bringing you the best tips and tricks to help you create a joyful, profitable, more purpose-filled photography business. Chelsy is a wife and mom of two who has built a thriving photography business in her tiny hometown in western North Dakota. Without further ado, here's your host, Chelsy Wise.
Identifying your ideal client, your soulmate client, or your ideal client avatar, whatever you want to call them, is one of the most important things that you'll do in your business. Here's why. Clarity inspires action. Confusion breeds inaction. If you get really clear on who your ideal client is, your ideal client will hire you because it is so clear and certain in your messaging that it seems like you're speaking directly to them instead of screaming to everyone. This instantly builds your like, know, and trust factor. So let's start with the boundaries that have been holding you back on clearly defining who your ideal client is. By far, the biggest roadblock that I hear from people is having the I serve everyone mentality. Now, when we start processing who our ideal client is, you might have the idea that you serve everyone. I mean, everyone needs photos taken, right? But it's unlikely that you actually do serve everyone. The point about identifying your ideal client isn't about limiting potential sales. It's about targeting those who are most likely to benefit and willing and ready to make a purchase with you. There's 2 steps to breaking down this barrier. First, write down the top 3 people who would most benefit from your photography business. Then write down the 3 types of people who are least likely to buy your product or your service. That way you have a starting point and you can start to see the light. So here's some examples of why someone might not hire you as a photographer. Maybe you live in a different location. I'm probably not the best choice as a wedding photographer for someone who lives in Austin, Texas. You see, I live in North Dakota, and as wonderful as Texas sounds in the middle of January, I really don't constantly want to be flying back and forth, missing out on time that I could be spending with my family. Budget might be another variable that keeps someone from hiring you. Someone who has a higher price budget might look at a lower priced photographer, and though they love their photos, they might wonder what's the catch. If their price is so low, maybe they aren't that great of a photographer. Or you could be out of someone's price budget too, and that's totally okay. The next barrier you might come up against when finding your ideal client is the I'm leaving someone out mentality. Let's be honest, it totally sucked not to get picked for kickball on the playground when we were growing up. And knowing that you're leaving someone else out stinks too. And the thought of leaving money on the table, man, that's just cringing. Why not try and get everyone to work with you? The reality is that people outside of your ideal client profile can and still will be able to reach you. Here's the thing, you're not actually putting restrictions on who can and can't hire you when you're defining your ideal client. You're simply defining the people who are most in need of your services. Finally, boundary number 3, I can't choose just one. While this is similar to the first barrier, it's a little bit different because it's based on your indecision and your fear. You probably have some of these questions or statements running through your head like, what if I change my mind? What if I pick the wrong ideal client? What if someone outside of my client profile wants to work with me? What if I already have more than one type of client that I'm working with? All right, let's break down the answers to those questions right quick. First up, what if I change my mind? Dude, it's totally fine. You are allowed to change your mind. It means that you're just pivoting, not starting over from scratch. So pivot along, my friends, and keep moving. All right, next question. What happens if I pick the wrong one? Guess what? It happens. You probably will, or you might, and you'll learn from it. You'll take the good bits and you'll leave the bad bits and you'll pivot on to something new. What if someone outside my ideal client profile wants to work with me? Maybe you're marketing to city brides, and a bride that's having a sunflower country wedding loves your work and wants you to drive out in the middle of nowhere, and she's willing to pay you for your travel fees. Sweet. If you're comfortable working with them, then do it. You are the CEO. You make the rules. You get to decide later on if you want to feature this country wedding on your profile or just stick with the ballrooms and cityscapes. It's completely up to you. All right, last question that might be running through your head. What if I really do have two different types of clients that I work with? So my answer to this is to try and dig a little bit more and see if you can find if there's a common thread between the two. Something that connects them and helps you to articulate who your ideal client is. This could be a certain style or a budget, maybe a lifestyle, or even a neighborhood. If you really do have two different ideal clients, make sure that you are clearly defining both of them. Uber is an example of this. They require two different types of clients in order to keep their business running. Their two clients are drivers and people who are looking for a ride. Now, their drivers are looking for flexibility and hoping to make more money than they would otherwise. Those who are looking for a ride want a fuss-free experience that gets them from point A to point B. Hey guys, we'll get right back to the show in just a second, but I wanted to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor of the show, HoneyBook. HoneyBook helps small businesses book more clients, manage products, and get paid all in one place. With HoneyBook's business management software, you can automate your busy work and stay on top of all your to-do lists, saving you time and money, and grow your business. It's like having your own personal assistant. I actually made the jump to HoneyBook last year after nearly 6 years with another company. I absolutely love HoneyBook's streamlined look and ease of navigation. It's also incredibly easy to input your own colors and photos and make it a totally custom branded experience for every single one of your clients. I love that it can store all of my email templates, contracts, invoices, and brochures inside HoneyBook, allowing me to keep it all organized and in one spot. Their mobile app makes running a business in between school drop-offs so handy. After 6 years with another company, it was a lot easier to switch than I originally would have thought, using HoneyBook's concierge service. They literally took all of my email templates, contracts, and loaded them into HoneyBook for me, making the switch so simple. HoneyBook is giving listeners of the Wise Photographer podcast an exclusive offer. For 50% off your first year of HoneyBook, head over to HoneyBook with Chelsy and take a peek at how I use HoneyBook and grab your 50% off your subscription. That's honeybookwithchelsy.com. All right, guys, let's head right back into the show. All right, now that we've broken through all those barriers, it's time to start defining who your ideal client is so you can start attracting them. If we really want to get clear on who our ideal client is, so we can get them to hire us, we have to understand 4 main things about them. The first thing is to figure out your basic demographic. So this means finding out if they're male or female, age, their marital status, where they live, and probably their yearly income. Now, this is important for photographers. As a newborn photographer, you're probably going to be marketing to new and expectant mothers, not high school senior boys. While this seems like a no-brainer, it is pretty important to actually write these things down. I created a worksheet that's going to walk you through this entire process that we're covering here in the podcast. Plus, it includes a few extra questions that are going to help you dive a little bit deeper into your ideal client profile. You can get this download by going to the show notes in this episode or going to wisephotographerpodcast.com. All right, the next thing that you need to figure out is their challenges and their results. This is where you're going to start digging into the heart of your ideal client. Let's stick with this newborn photographer experience. A new mom feels like days are long, but the years are short. She wants the good parts to slow down and let her savor it. But it would be totally okay if this baby would start sleeping through the night. Am I right? A newborn photographer who understands this will be able to use marketing that speaks to the feeling of wanting to freeze those sweet little moments, because all of us parents know that they grow up just way too fast. And those little toothless grims and chubby little baby cheeks are going to be replaced with smiles that have missing teeth before we know it. When you know what it is that really speaks to your client, you're able to use those exact messages in your social media posts, on your website, so that you're really connecting with your ideal client. All right, the next thing that we need to figure out when it comes to identifying our ideal client is identifying their sources of information. So you want to know what they're reading, who they're listening to, and where they're hanging out on social media. This helps you to know who and what is influencing them. It also lets you know where you should be showing up on social media to find your clients. Now, family photographers might be more apt to show up on Facebook and in Facebook groups, where wedding photographers and seniors might be showing up on Instagram or TikTok. This is where it's really important to identify where they're hanging out based on who your ideal client is. All right, the final step in identifying your ideal client is to identify the monetary investment that they're going to need to make. Now, your ideal client will be able to pay full price for your services. It is your job right now to value yourself, your time, and have well-defined packages and pricing options with clarity so that you can attract the right people. There you have it, my friends, the 3 things that might be holding you back and the 4 areas of information that you need to define in order to get a tack-sharp photo of who your ideal client is. Remember, you can head to the show notes below or go to chelseywise.com/ideal client to get a copy of your ideal client worksheet that walks you through this entire process. That's it for this week, guys. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wise Photographer podcast. Dive into the show's notes for this episode and all past episodes at www.thewisephotographer.com. If you loved the show, share it with a friend. Thanks for tuning in, you Wise Photographer you.